This is us Rusted on Gaming, doing some rapid fire videos this morning. I didn't really feel like streaming all of these particular decks. Not that I don't think these decks are good or anything. It's just I've seen from past experience that if you stream a bunch of like short decks right in a row, you don't really get any great viewership numbers on YouTube because you're switching over so much. And I really wanted to give each deck their own separate video rather than doing one long stream with like each of these decks like cut up in their own little things. This is Janshevik's Blue-Red Flyers list. It is kind of has an improvised theme to it. So this deck has a little more bodies to pair with favorable wins than the blue-white listed. So you're a little low on lands, 18, but seems like the deck seems to function. I've played a couple of games already without it, with it. As long as you find like a renegade map or something to pair with your one lane, you're usually pretty good. Obviously this deck is built around favorable wins, trying to get as many cheap flyers into play and abuse that, and then synergize it with things like Metallic Rebuke, Lightning Strike to kind of tempo your opponent out a little bit. But it's truly a Maverick Thopterist deck. This is obviously a very powerful improvised thing, and sometimes you can get this down like turn 3 quite easily. You get a 2/2 with 2/1/1s. It's kind of like a really cheap PN Kieran Alar. I'm sure this deck would play PN Kieran Alar if it was in the format, but obviously we just have Pia. So this is kind of Maverick Thopterist list. To fill that out, you have 4 Ornithopter, 4 Renegade Map, 4 Inventor's Goggles, and 3 Hope of Cure 4. So you have a lot of cheap artifacts to play in the early turns. In addition to that, you have Siren Storm Tamer, Hope, and Ornithopter as early flyers. You also have Pianolar, Maverick Thopterist, and Experimental Aviator. It's pretty expensive for the deck, but you do need a backup Maverick Thopterist to really kind of build your board. And then once a Healy is kind of a value creature with all your various things that you can copy. And beyond that, you got Metallic Rebuke here as a pseudo counterspell, and Lightning Strike and a Braid to kind of disrupt your opponent's creatures. And Siren Storm Tamer can protect your bigger threats, although you really don't have any true big threats. Reverse Engineer is also a pretty good card advantage thing when you get a bunch of Thopters and stuff into play. So you're really hoping to leverage these cheap early artifacts into these bigger payoff spells over here. Sideboard, you got a couple Sentinel Totems for disrupting graveyard decks like God Pharaoh's Gift, or even things like the Scarab God or Torrential Gearhulk. River's Rebuke feels a little ambitious, but I suppose in some of the longer games against the mid-range decks, you do need a reset button, and you do have a lot of card draw with the Reverse Engineering. A couple copies of Magma Spray for some earlier aggro decks like Mono Red or Black White Knights. A couple of Braids for artifacts or you need more removal. Nimble Obstructionist can be kind of a versatile flyer against control, can stop some of their triggers, and stop something like Teferi Ultimate or a Chandra Ultimate, or just come in as a 3/1 flash flyer. Negates for matchups where that's relevant, usually the control decks, and that's a Healy Rye when you need another grinding card against mid-range and control decks. So that's pretty much where we're at. We're going to do a couple of practice cues. This deck is a little underpowered for the full power decks of the format, so I really don't want to go head to head with too many like tier 1 decks and just get stomped. But I do want to show the various different synergies of the deck. It's pretty sweet. Played against a blue-white control deck. We're probably going to have a couple matches drop, which kind of sucks, but played against a blue-white control deck. It seemed like we were in the game up until the point they were able to counter like our 3rd relevant spell. Like they had Syncopate and double Disallow, and we were able to resolve our 2nd copy of Reverse Engineering. So we kind of fell behind on the card advantage engine. Between that and Fumigate, one of the dangers of playing an all-in deck, you get hit by something like a sweeper. I had to use Metallic Rebuke to try to resolve a PNLR. Maybe that was incorrect, but we really didn't have a whole lot of pressure on the board with, Hope of Gear 4 and a couple of Ornithopters before that. Alright, fixing the microphone there. Had it up when I was listening to other stuff while I was playing the practice games. But, Yeah, this deck's pretty interesting. Wanted to do a couple quick matches with it, but it's definitely very powerful. Um, but obviously, in the kind of format we're in now, it's kind of hard to play anything sweet because you've got to be able to compete with control. You've got to be able to compete with red black or mono red aggro, which none of those are easy to do. So beyond that, I mean, I like Janshevik's list. It's definitely feels a little more fluid than the the blue white flyers list that we played was. Um, Obviously, we can get stuck on lands a little bit more with only running 18 lands, but that does mean we have quite a few more spells in the deck. And hopefully the queue, I was going to say, hopefully the queue will fire here soon. It's one thing about sitting in practice rooms is sometimes the queues don't always fire quickly. Alright, wish our opponent good luck. Alright. So generally why I do the 2-man queues instead of the practice rooms is generally your opponents are a little more quick to... I'll go ahead and keep this hand. Not the greatest hand. We don't have any other early payoffs, but we do have some early cards here to stick. Renegade Map. Experimental Aviator is going to be a little slow. So our opponent has Servant the Conduit. Question is, are we supposed to continue developing our board, or are we supposed to... It's a Pirate Wizard, and that's not better. We're just supposed to slow our opponent this turn. Don't want to get run over before we can get set up. Alright, so I think we can pretty much get everything into play. Fortunately, Aviator doesn't have Improvise, otherwise it'd be a pretty good card to have. We got an island here, I guess. The island for the turn, pass. Yeah, Harvester's kind of relevant here. Metallic Rebuke would have been a good one to have last turn. I'm gonna say I don't think I can wait until 6 to play this, so just gotta play it and to use this ability, yes. Inventor's Goggles, I mean obviously they're not the quote-unquote best card, but they're interesting. Shalai, yep, Shalai is going to be a bit of annoyance. Take 2 spells to deal with this. Our opponent Crew Harvester this turn, that's fine. We don't intend to attack anyway, so. It's like we're up against the Green White Angels list. We'll just leave the goggles in our hand. Let our opponent think we don't necessarily have anything here. Alright, Karn's moderately annoying. It's like I kind of have to sacrifice something to get Karn off the table, which really sucks. Probably lose the Siren Storm Tamer would be my guess. Fortunately, we've already used one of our only copies of a Braid. Yep. Well, Thopterist isn't bad. Play this out. Play this. Guess I'll go ahead and attach that one. Yeah. Alright, good and pass. Hopefully peel a reverse engineering or a favorable wins here. So one thing about synergy-based decks is you're just you have individually less powerful things, but the stuff you're doing when combined is pretty decent. But against things like Karn and Lyra, we are a little underpowered. I'll go ahead and scoop it here. I'm not beating Lyra plus all this at the moment. Alright, so definitely want the 2 copies of a Braid. Probably also want River's Rebuke as kind of an out to their board being larger. Board out like a favorable wins. Some amount of lightning strikes because they're not quite as good in the matchup because of the nature of our opponent's stuff. And maybe like 1 Siren Storm Tamer. Since they're not going to have as much targeted removal. They might have something like Seal Away or Cast Out, but alright. Double Ornithopter, Metallic Rebuke. We got a mulligan in this hand. This hand's a little bit better, but not by much. I don't want another reverse engineering here. Alright, so we're kind of getting there. So we draw like an Ornithopter or something next turn will be in okay shape. There's a Servant of the Conduit, which that's going to have to die. Alright, Ornithopter. So equipment cost on that. 2. And obviously we have 2 of our more powerful cards in hand, and our opponent's probably going to get to resolve what? Jade Light Ranger. Actually one of the few cards in their deck we don't care about. Okay, Walking Ballista is going to be annoying. I think we're just gonna flat out lose to Walking Ballista here if we don't find favorable wins next turn. But to be fair, I guess it can only kill our Siren Storm Tamer right now. Ixalan's Binding? Really? Ixalan's Binding on what? Sure. So can I play all these cards out this turn? Man. Opponent with all the Ixalan's Bindings. Alright, Thopterist. Yes. Yes. Presuming Ballista's gotta come down now, right? Nope. Guess not. Shall I? Yep. We know one of our opponent's last cards is Walking Ballista. Alright. We can't beat the combination of Shalai plus Walking Ballista and either Sphere Harvester. Alright, so got to see our deck do some of its things. One of the things Janshevik kind of warned us about was just the fact that this deck just seems a little underpowered in the current format. It does some sweet stuff. It's got some good synergies. It's probably was a lot of fun in the early part of the standard format, but now that we're starting to get to the point where we've got a more developed format and there's a lot more powerful cards, it's kind of hard to use these synergy based decks. This is a hand, I guess. We'll go ahead and try it out, see how it goes. Little land heavy, but seems alright. Yep. So turn 3 Maverick Thopterus seems pretty reasonable, but I don't know how we're going to face off against turn 3 Steel Leaf Champion, or turn 2 Steel Leaf Champion. Alright. Thopters. Yep. Now we have the biggest creature on the battlefield, plus we have some Thopters going. J-Light Ranger, sure. Wild Growth Walker. Catra's Monument. Interesting. It's going to be hard to overcome the life gain from that Wild Growth Walker, though. I mean, we're certainly going wide, but we definitely need to, It's always fun how Aethersphere Harvester stops our flying party. Just when we were having so much fun. Excuse me. Metallic Rebuke, you're always a little late to the party, friend. I think we're probably interested in Lightning Strike. Let's go ahead and pass to our opponent here. Probably not interested in the Catra's Monument coming down. I don't even know if there's too much that Saheeli can actually go get artifact-wise. Might just be copy Maverick Thopterus and hope we find a Braid. One's gonna go for... Sure. Guess I should have blocked with 2 there. Another Aethersphere Harvester is going to be a little bit difficult to overcome. Did we just scry an island to the bottom here? Which is really interesting, because there isn't actually all that many islands in our deck. Good old Moto Bugs. Yep. least one of those harvesters. Fairgrounds Warden. Alright. Is this a prelude to an all-out attack on Saheeli here? Guess it is. Wow. Okay, so do that. Do that. And do I just let Saheeli go here? Do this, pump. What's our pump take? Perhaps I should have played my mountain here. Alright, and pass. Okay. So the only quote-unquote free attack our opponent have is the Harvester. Everything else might cost them a creature. I guess that's technically a free attack too. We can just block here. Metallic Rebuke might be a little past the point. It's kind of useful in this game. Favorable Winds, that's a card I'm interested in. Fortunately, our opponent has the mana to pay They just let it get countered? Okay. So I can... Let's go ahead and eat one of these then. No sense in trying to save Sakili. Hopefully we'll draw one of our reverse engineering here. Yep, serving the conduit's fine. Mm-hmm. Sure. Wait. One pump. Do I have enough? One, two. I don't have enough. Okay. Just let that attack go through. Lightning Strike's certainly an interesting one. I think we'll let our opponent go to combat here. Guess this could potentially get blown out by Blossoming Defense. Legion Conquistador. Now that's a card. Nothing we can do about that one. Sounds like a green-white Aketra's Monument Explore deck. Interesting. Ornithopter. Okay. Start getting in with some of our flyers here. Yep. Feels more like a game of Limited than a game of Constructed. It's not a bad one. Actually getting to the point where we might actually win this game. There's Monument. Alright. A little less scary when your opponent doesn't have a whole lot going on now. Another PNLR. Continue pressuring our opponent in the air. So our opponent has to make a move this turn with the Harvester, or they're just dead on board. Yep. Don't know if they quite realize that. Oh, guess not. They're gonna gain some life with a Wildlife Walker here. So currently we have 11 power in the air. Play this because the pump can be relevant. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Green-white Aketra Explorer versus red-white blue-red Flyers. Looks like a pretty good F&M matchup. Feels like our opponent's going to get desperate and attack here. Nope. Okay. So one card in hand. Metallic Rebuke's a little late in the party here. So one card to play around. Currently 11 power in the air. Can sacrifice the goggles. I think we'll just go for it here. You cannot block. Do that. Sacrifice that. Alright. Finally, got a win. Whew. Alright, so cards we're interested in. We're interested in the River's Rebukes. We're interested in the Abrades. Don't think we're really interested in a second copy of Saheeli Rai. Is there any cards? We cut like one copy of Metallic Rebuke because it gets a little worse in the later game. And get these Aviators out of here and maybe cut like one Hope of Gear 4. deck certainly is pretty sweet when it gets rolling. But, I mean... Alright, so Ornithopter... Guess we'll keep this in. Alright, that's a good start. Feels a little bit, in some ways, very akin to what Affinity does. Like you play a lot of weaker cards to like invoke these synergies here. Currently leaves us with 4 cards. 4. Don't really have anything better to do. Equip up this Ornithopter and swing. What do you name here? Life class. Yeah, sure. I don't think this is the right matchup for that, friend, but whatever. I think the Inventor's Goggle's just free here. Couple of Thopters. Yes. Yes. Are we getting Fairgrounds Wardened, or are they using the Vampire here? Nope. Aethersphere Harvester. We can at least keep the Harvester in check as a blocker. If they want to spend energy to gain some life, they're more than welcome to. So currently we have 4, 5, 6 power on board. It's not really enough for River's Rebuke to really accelerate us, but so we're putting his Life Craster's Bestiary in play. After arrest. Okay. Mm-hmm. we'll Thopter rest that. So we have a chance, but if we draw like one or two more spells, I think we'll be alright. Like a reverse engineering would be quite nice, etc. Walking Ballista. Yep, didn't see that out of them last game. Another Thopter, see what they do here. Pick your up. Losing our two Thopters here, which sucks. Past our opponent here. No, we have the opponent has Ether Sphere Harvester. This plan is not going to work out too well. Yup. Thopter rest on the Maverick Thopterist. Yep. That's a nice one. Does make Walking Ballista a little bit worse. Attacking here doesn't do any good. So if they don't play Ballista this turn, can I set up lethal? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 power. Yep. Hopefully they don't play Ballista this turn. Wow. That's unfortunate. We were actually pretty close to setting up a win there. I think this will definitely be the last match with this deck, but at least this match we got to see some back and forth gameplay. Sure? Question mark? Like to draw like a favorable wins or one of our payoff cards here. Nimble Obstructionist. Not really a payoff card, but you know. Yep, so our opponent's going to get to play Magic. They're Inventor's Goggles. Hardly the most exciting card here. So, I mean, we have a lot more powerful draws in our deck, but is the average draw in our deck more powerful than a 3/1 flyer? I don't think so. Walking Ballista. So I gotta decide what we're killing with the Abrade. Yep. I'm presuming Servant in the Conduit's going to be going to the graveyard. Sure. Kind of glad to get that Ballista off the table here. Mm-hmm. Alright, we hit one more land drop. Our opponent's going to be pretty far behind in this game. Card on top, presumably a land? Yep. Mm-hmm. Pick up your Unfortunately, they drew into their lands. They'll deploy 2 spells this turn. The Harvester is the one that I would want to deploy here. Pass to our opponent here. Nope, no attacks. Probably gonna lose here, but I mean, we do have some nice draws still. Wait, what? Okay. Another Hulai. Sure. Past our opponent here. Five, four, three, two, one. Alright, so let's see what we would have drawn here. I guess we won't see what we drew. Alright, so total discussion on the deck. Obviously the synergies are powerful. When our opponent's on a little bit slower or a little bit more kind of mopey of a plan, you can set up situations with like PNLR where you can win games and, you know, all that kind of stuff, which is fine. I mean, the deck clearly has some powerful draws. Like early Maverick Thopterists obviously is like the best card in the deck. Favorable Winds obviously sets up your Thopterist to do a lot of different things. I just don't honestly think that there's enough, as Janshevik warned me, there's not really enough power in this deck to compete with the bigger boys in the format. It's a fun little deck. It does its thing alright, but it's not really like not really viable in the bigger against the bigger guns of the metagame. It's probably better when would have been better early in the format. Obviously, things like Favorable Winds weren't quite printed yet. What was Favorable Winds printed in this thing? Was it Dominaria? Probably should know that. Favorable Winds. Favorable Winds. Ixalan. This is probably a deck like 6-9 months ago would have been a lot better off than it is now. But just with well, without before the bannings, I guess
I mean, it's a fun little deck, but like you can see, if it doesn't draw like these cards in particular, has a hard time. Well, particularly these ones, it has a hard time closing out the game. I mean, reverse engineering, drawing cards, Maverick Thopterist powering up your things. This synergy here with this stuff, you know, powering out the early stuff is pretty important, but overall, I don't think the power level of the deck is there. But it's a fun little change of pace to play. I certainly enjoyed it a lot more than the blue-white favorable wins deck. There's a lot more synergy, a lot more play to this deck, other than, here's my Lyra, can you beat it? Okay, if you can, game's over. But, yeah, deck was a lot of fun. We won a match on a technicality. I played a third match against blue-white control earlier. Felt like we were in it game one, and then just kind of petered out, and then our opponent disconnected, so, yeah. But, yeah, deck's pretty interesting. Nice job, Janshevik. Unfortunately, you know, cute decks like this obviously don't really have a place in the format once we're this deep in, and we're starting to get into powerful control decks and powerful aggro decks, so, yeah, I see what you mean about it being kind of a little past its prime in the standard format, so. This has been Dust for Dusted on Gaming with Blue Red Flyers.